Happy New Year, guys. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We have Mello and Deslin who are away from their usual places. And so I wanted to just start off by saying that this is going to be our last Aloha Mindset parenting session for 2021. I looked back and our first one was in August 23rd. So it's amazing how, we keep showing up. I think it's an excellent resource. We might not have many people viewing it, but right now I think we're just going to keep showing up and, be there as a resource. If you guys have any questions, any feedback, we welcome that. And we will be talking about reflecting on 2021 and how do we prepare? How do we prepare for 2022? A lot of, life is still unpredictable. And who'd have thought that we would still be in this, global pandemic mode where now there's variants, there's things that we don't know. And it's kind of like life, it's kind of like parenting, right? As many parenting classes that you take as, even when you raise a child who is in their 40s, I talk to grandparents and they still feel like they're navigating like mysterious waters, sometimes treacherous waters, but very rewarding at the same time. So thank you, Deslin. She's driving, so I think she's going to pop on when the area gets better. And Mello, what are your thoughts on navigating 2022, but also have you reflected on what transpired? How do we reflect with our children?
I really like, Karen, that I watched your Facebook Live yesterday, and I really like what you did with your as a family, just to find out what people really enjoyed, or what we're happy about and stuff. And reflecting back to, I've been thinking, because we're at the end of the year, we all get last session was about goal setting. Our last solid session or informational session. We talked about goal setting a lot, and just looking into 2022 and talking with you guys about biz and stuff, just realizing that like a lot of times we set ourselves up for failure almost, or stagnation even, just because we're so caught up in what didn't go right or what we wish went better. And in my other group that I'm involved in, I did post like a worksheet. Maybe I'll post that in this group as well, about goal setting and looking forward. And one of the things I think we're key is looking back at 2021 and actually looking at our wins, because I think it's so easy for us to, again, focus on the things that didn't quite go as well, or the things that we maybe perceive failure at. And we forget about the wins. Sometimes we had big wins and they're so easily overshadowed by what we perceive as like losses or not achieving. So I think one thing looking forward into 2022 before we even get there and set our goals is to look back at 2021 and what are our wins? Like, what was important that we accomplished, achieved, or important people we met or connected with. So I think we, like you said in your live too, like we often forget the gratitude, to express that gratitude and to recognize the good in things. It's so easy, and I think autopilot to look at the negative or the bad. So looking back, I really enjoyed. I thought about business. I thought about different categories, and I think for everybody, it might be, a lot of people, it's easier to think about, like, as far as business, what things did I win at as my family, what things went well or didn't go well. Did go well. So yeah, that's my advice, is to first of all look at your wins, and if you can't think of wins off the top of your head, think of specific facets of your life, like family, finances, business, or work, and social. Yeah.
But also just the small wins. I mean, I do this with our family. Usually it's the top 10. And I know that it was, harder, with my younger one. She's like, I don't know. And I said, it could be something simple. Your simple wins and what you're grateful for could be as simple as like playing with the dogs. And she actually said playing with Piper, having more quality time after leaving her job, or family dinners. I thought going to the theater was kind of funny, because before it was like, yeah, we went to the movies. Now it's like we went to that one movie together as a family.
We got to eat popcorn, movie theater popcorn.
Yes, and we
movie at the same time.
Well, and we thought it was going to be, like sold out, right? And then I swear there was about 6 people in the whole theater, and we thought It's such a what we used to take for granted is now a gratitude that it's like even going out. And even though I met Mello, and it's like this whole show your COVID card and wear your mask and show your ID, socializing in public in restaurants is not what it used to be. But flip switch, I never would have met Mello. I never would have met Deslin if I had not, participated in different workshops or just different opportunities. So I think, yeah, it's just the little wins. I would like to share, if you don't mind, just some of the self-reflective questions that we can ask our kids. And it doesn't even have to be, with the little ones, you could even say, what was the best part? Like I always thought of like the highlight. We used to do highlight and low light, because I think with low light, when you do it daily, you can flip switch it and explain why that low light is maybe a learning lesson, or why
Talk
that
more
low
about
light.
low light for people who might not know what low light is.
Oh, yes. Highlight, of course, the best part of your day. When my students go on vacation, I explain that low light is just something that you would rather not have happened. Maybe you go to Disneyland and you have to stand in line for 2 hours, and that is a low light. Or maybe, your tutor gave you extra homework, which is a low light. But I think in the long run, we benefit from the low lights. The low lights build resilience. The low lights teach us just valuable life lessons. So why don't I just come up with just a few of the questions. Mello saw my live. I think if you had one question, it would be, what's an important lesson you learned from your family this year? And so I asked my 19-year-old, and she said that we support each other when going through rough times, which you don't know what's going to come out of a teenager's mouth, but I thought that's true, that no matter how bad things get, we are there, for each other. The other thing, of course, I love how Mello does this too, with her kids. And what are you grateful? What are you the most grateful for? And you do this even with your 3-year-old, right? I think no matter what age you are, can you share what your 3-year-old is sometimes grateful
Well,
for?
for my kids, even with the larger ones, like we've always done this, like what's the best part of your day?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize like how powerful that was or how good that was. But like my older kids, like every night before bed, we'd say like, what was the best part? Or at dinner, it turned to different routines, right? Sometimes it was a dinner thing and sometimes it's been a bedtime thing, but what was the best part of your day? Just to acknowledge. And as they got older, then I started asking like, what's something today that you wish went better? And how do we, and not necessarily how could we have made it better, depending on what the situation is, right? Like maybe it was a conflict, how could we have handled that better? Or how could, as they get older too, asking more complex questions, like how could we shift our thinking about that so that we do feel good about it?
Right.
But yeah, definitely for the babies, I always ask, and they're not at that level that I can ask like what a low light is yet. But definitely,
you guys, guess what?
Guess what?
Sorry to interrupt, but we have someone that's going to pop in. Someone that both of you know. I invited him as a special guest, and he's going to pop in. Any guesses?
Ricky.
Jeff?
He's going to pop on any moment now.
It's B-Rad.
Yeah. Surprise. Thank you so much for being our special guest. He is at home with his family, but I said, hey, if you can just share, just be on here for about 10 minutes. If you need to go earlier than that, we understand. But I thought of you because mindset, when you reflect, that's what I learned from interviewing Brad in our interactions. Like, you have this magical power to see anything in a positive light. So I actually think of you when things go, become challenging.
What would B-Rad do?
What would Brad do? Exactly. How would he flip switch this? So Brad, thank you for being here. Put you on the spot. How reflect 2021? What is one thing that stands out?
Oh man. Geez, I gotta tell you, I'm looking at Mello. Mello, you look like you've been eating and crapping rainbows today. You're looking good, sister. Looking good.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd love to crop rainbows.
Yeah, well, you're versatile. You are Superwoman. I'm sure we can figure that out. You just need to be more empowered. You got to start reaching a little deeper there, Mello. Uh, no, man, 21 is just, uh, for me, it's just taught me that I've just gotten stronger on my success road. And we all obviously have limits, but that isn't to say we can't lift our ceiling a little bit. I mean, we all have ceilings, but we can lift those things, and depending on how we choose to have a mindset, how we choose to fill our cup, how we choose to fill other people's cups, all that stuff, we can lift. The possibilities. There's possibilities for us that we don't even know of yet, but we have no chance. We have no shot at it. And so I've hopped on a few different programs, and I wrote a bestseller. I have an online course. I have a lot of things that I didn't have in 2020. And, what is an awful time for a lot of people, obviously, with COVID and just stuff that happens. It could have, and I'm also a lifelong educator. I had all kinds of reasons to whine or to get into pity city or to add. I mean, I could have had, if I was an excuse maker, I have all these built-in possible excuses. But like the rest of us, I'm built to win. And so how would a winner think here? A winner isn't going to sit there and dwell in pity city. A winner is going to think, how can I capitalize on this? Or how can I, if I'm a growth-minded person, there's only one way to go, and it's forward. So that's been me. I didn't ever think I was going to be, I hadn't even thought about writing a book. So that to me was a big deal. Like I'd always been an ad valuer, but I never thought I would write a book. And then when Tony Robbins' publisher approaches me and says, we want to write a book, that was cool. And then for it to become a bestseller, I mean, that was an aha moment for me that I can do that. And I was just I've always considered myself just an average everyday guy. Like I was an average student in high school. I don't know, I've never considered myself like any different than anybody else. So if I can write a bestseller, if I can be hanging out with these cool cats on the islands, if I can be, doing all the things that I'm doing, anybody can do it.
What do you think is the secret that made you realize, hey, I can write a book? Because I felt the same way. And, you always want to, but then you wonder, do I have it in me? And so that's what this group is for, like the Aloha mindset, right? Like really helping parents see that despite the hopelessness that they feel, right? And that's what I love that analogy where you raise the ceiling, because sometimes I think we lower the ceiling, or if our kids are going through a rough time, you don't even think it's possible. You just want to, you're like treading water and you're like, am I going to be able to even, not drown? That's your goal.
I love that you said that, pity city. That's a really
I wrote that down. As soon as he said that, I'm like, I am writing that down. I think we all, it's hard to sometimes, especially when I work with students and they are in the pity city and that is their homebound, and no matter what you say, right? No matter what you say, they're in that negative mindset. So how did you realize that? How did you have that courage to say, you know what? I was average, but now I think I'm going to pursue this.
Well, I was fortunate to I've surrounded myself with good people my whole life. I mean, not everyone has. Well, I take that back. I mean, I think a person that doesn't have a winning mindset would not take ownership of their thoughts and who they're hanging out with and who they're surrounding themselves with. But I've been fortunate with a lot of different deals. I've also been fortunate to have a kiddo on the autism spectrum, and he has taught me so much. Without even him trying, he's taught me so much about the success road and so much about patience. And I think, I'm a parent also, and I'm as I said, a lifelong educator. And I think a lot of us, we get our lens are in the wrong place. And we stop, we got to be patient. We got to be patient. A person that's on the success road, we always have a sense of urgency because we're so into impact and we're so into being better version of ourselves and so into, living the best life we can possibly live. We're so into that. We're intense about that. But if we're into the success road, we can afford to be patient, because we know on the success road, the vibrations we're having right now might not be the same ones we had yesterday or the ones that are going to be 2 weeks from now. There might be some tough moments. There's going to be tough moments. A person that's focused on the success road knows that. So, and, patience is really just a genuine expression of confidence, of faith, of serenity, of just a process success road mindset. That's what patience is. And if we want to be more patient, we have to be on the success road. And I'm kind of rabbit trailing here, but we've got to take care of ourselves from the inside out. We're always, we're getting pissed at our kids, and we're getting angry with all this outside noise. And peace isn't ignoring outside noise. Peace is being good on the inside out. We want to be peace rebellions. We want to be strong. We want to be empowered on the inside so that we can motivate the people we care about the most to do what we need to do.
Brad, can I ask you a question? Since I know you also have an older son, and even with your son on the spectrum, or as a parent and a dad, because your perspective I think is unique compared to the three of us, how have you shown your kids how to do self-reflection? Has it been like something direct, or just kind of things you kind of throw out there, or like what's been a way that you've noticed that you've been able to share that, the ability to self-reflect and to deal from the inside out? Sure.
Well, man, first off, it evolves, and it's not the same for the two of them. I mean, my kiddo on the spectrum, he's so black and white and so literal about everything. Things are just a little bit different with him, so we just have conversations. With my oldest, he's a freshman in college now, and we have daily conversations, and we've tried journaling. I've been an average guy, but I've always been a positive guy and a growth-minded guy. So our conversations, for instance, on the way home after a baseball game or football game or after something big, some intense contest or whatever, our conversations weren't about how he struck out or hit a home run or threw a touchdown pass or got sacked. Our conversations weren't about the game. Or if it was a test, our conversations have never been about the score of the test. Our conversations are always about reflecting on the road that led us to whatever our outcome was. So that's kind of been the primary one for me. Like I said, I've had him journal. We've journaled about we've journaled and we've had conversations about, people say I don't have enough time for what matters. Well, then let's get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter. Like, you say you want this stuff. This is what you're telling me. You want this. You want a 4.0. You want to play college baseball. You want all this stuff. And I don't have enough time. And Karen, you and I have talked about this. I don't believe in that. I don't believe that you don't have time. It's prioritizing. Balance is prioritizing. That's what balance is. There's no such thing as like 50-50. Not even in a relationship. A relationship's 100.
Statistically speaking, I agree with you. Karen and I have that conversation about this. The numerical statistics, it just is not possible.
Yeah. It's not. It really isn't. And depending on where you're at in your life, that changes too. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's so different for each of the kiddos.
But I like that you shared that about talking about, not the end result, but talking about what got them there, because that's really what reflection is. Because sometimes we don't even realize how we got there. And like you said, for every child, like, it's going to be different. Every person is different. We're all unique in so many ways. So, but I really do like that. And I think that's a great way of explaining. I don't think I could have explained that any better. As far as if a parent asked me, like, how do I teach my child self-reflection? That's such a great way, easily digestible, and like anybody could do that. Just what's the road? How did we get here?
Right. Yeah. Cool. And I think we have to track our behaviors and track our patterns, just like we would track in anything else, like in a business or in athletics, they track everything. They know what kind of gum, they know whether you're wearing BVDs or Fruit of the Loom, man. They know everything. And I think it's important, if we're truly serious about change, we have to know, like you said, sometimes we're just unaware that we're unaware. We just don't know. And so if we don't track our movements, if we track our behaviors or track when this is happening, how do we even know where to start? Or how do we even know if it's an issue? So, we always talk about, auditing our behaviors, auditing our tasks, auditing, and then we go from there. So, yeah.
Wow, I love that. I think if more parents tracked behaviors and taught kids, right? Because if you don't audit, like you said, unaware is unaware. And I love how most of the parents that I work with, they always, why did you what was wrong? You got a 78, and they focus on the grade.
Yeah.
You messed up in soccer or the sport, and then the child's face, which was lit up, totally, I mean, the energy, you can just see it drop. But that is, I think, the secret to building confidence, that you don't focus on the mistakes. Or I think you mentioned it too.
Or necessarily the end result. I think
yes,
we've talked about this many times.
Yeah.
As a society, we are very much results based. I mean, we are trained that way from you're little, whether it's your test score, whether it's your grades. Then as you get older, it becomes your salary, your title. You know what I mean? It's very much externally based. And I think it's very difficult, because even as a parent, and I know these things, I'm still trained to think about these end results. But let me tell you, from my personal experience, when I stopped, like for grades, for example, when I stopped focusing on my kids' grades, their grades went up. I mean, just an inadvertent, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, why are you getting C's, or why, what did you score on this? And when I just, like, I learned this from Karen too, just let go, stop focusing on it, stop the conversation about those things, the grades went up by themselves without any effort for me.
Yeah. Well, success isn't a destination.
Yeah.
The success is the road. And
the road that's always under construction, by the way, too.
Amen. Well, and really, you think about it in life, where's the fun if it isn't under construction? Really? I mean, you don't, as you guys know, the growth zone and the comfort zone aren't the same zone. And for me personally, I don't want to be handed a trophy. I don't want to be handed success. I don't want to be handed anything, because it's in those moments where you struggle, where you learn about yourself. And man, those are the things that create stories that you remember forever. Like, that I talk about to this day, from when I was 12 years old. And if we're so worried about what we look like, or if we're so worried about first place, I mean, I've joked about this many times. I spell fun W-I-N. But the biggest difference for me is how I keep track of my scores. Way different than when I kept track of it when I was 12. When I was 12, I was a nervous wreck. I wasn't my best self in the biggest moments. I was always really, really worried about letting people down. And I was a really good kid. I was really honest. I was a good kid, good character guy, good friend, good son, I think, all those things. But I was always so worried about letting people down, because I was worried about not getting an A, or I was worried about not getting voted to the all-star team, or I think what happens is we create people that are perceived perfectionists, and then kids start melting. Ironically, they want it so bad that they can't perform in crunch time because they're so worried about letting everyone down. And we as parents, I've been guilty of this too. We're so intense about them doing well that we don't coach up the process. We don't coach it up. I've been guilty of it also. We don't coach it up. We don't coach up the growth, like Mel was saying. We don't coach that up. And if we would just focus on getting better, like are the thoughts that are in my head right now having me trend up? Am I trending up with these thoughts? If I'm not trending up, kick them to the curb. If the people I'm hanging out with right now aren't having me trend up, kick them to the curb. nobody should be in my circle without my permission, and nobody has an edge on me without my permission. And I feel like if we focus more on that, thinking better, living better, and ultimately, we become what we think about, right?
Wow, I am writing just copious notes every time I talk to you, Brad. It's like, oh yeah, that's like, like when you said the Pity City thing and coaching up the growth, because most of my students are that like, I need the A. Oh my gosh, I got an 89. My phone will be taken away if I don't get, a strong B, and it just creates so much performance anxiety. I'm guilty of that. I wanted the A. I thought the A defined me. And it's a hard place to be in, because as a parent, you want your kids to succeed. And I think in 2022, I shared this yesterday on my Facebook Live. I asked my daughter, like, what do you think parents need to know to help their kids? And she said, not to stress kids out and to really focus on mental health and really listen to what they need. And I thought, wow, everything that, I think we get the priorities mixed up maybe, and you just focus on what society trains us to focus on.
What's a real test though is if you really do that coaching up with your kids. And for me, that was really disheartening, especially not especially, I only did with my older children because they're older, but when you start and you shift the way you're parenting to coaching your kids up, excuse the noise, shifting to code, there's no roosters here, there's cars, but when
I
you
thought
do
it
that
was the rainbows coming out of your butt. That's what I immediately assumed.
But when you shift to coaching your kids up, it really hurt me to see how much I'm going to describe it as damage. I felt like I damaged my kids, because just realizing where they stood on that thought process where, I'm like, yeah, you did great, but this went well. And they're just like, but I didn't do it. And then you just realize that all of those years or moments that you could have capitalized on more, then you just realize, like, excuse my language, you're like, shit, I fucked this up. You know what I mean? And so, but that was such a reality check for me when I'm trying to take that different perspective with my kids, coach them up, focus on the positive. And I realized that because of my habits, because of my upbringing, and what I thought was right as a parent at the time, like I distorted their thinking pattern. And I wish I didn't, but I can only try to make it better now.
Yeah. Couple things while I'm hearing you talk. That's really good stuff, Mel. One, we're talking about how we can better take care of our kids. But I'm listening to you talk, and I can't help but think, like, what are we doing to take care of ourselves? Because the reason we're doing the things we're doing is not because we don't love our kids. I've joked that I would rather lose all my limbs and have all my teeth punched out, and even then I wouldn't give up or I wouldn't change my kids for anything. Like, I would do anything for them. But the reason we're is probably because we've been conditioned in our own minds. And so when do we start investing in ourselves? Because that primal mindset of, take for instance my kiddo on the spectrum. I describe, like, the 15 minutes after he was diagnosed. That was one of the biggest struggles I've ever had, was those next 15 minutes. Because I was this big jock guy. My wife was a Gatorade Player of the Year, Division I basketball player. We're both super social. If you saw us at the party, or we dominate wedding reception floors, we're just all about it. And having been lifelong educators, we knew what was coming. We knew there'd be bullying. We knew there'd be cyberbullying. We knew that people were going to look at them weird in the grocery market. We knew all that was coming. And man, for the next 15 minutes, I was stuck. I was, when I could easily, I was super gluing negative thoughts to my dome. And by the time I got home and got into my driveway, I said to myself, this isn't fair to him. This isn't fair to me. Like, I'm getting caught up in the shoulda and the coulda. And when you get caught up in a bunch of shoulda, what you get is a pile of should. And I wasn't going to do that. I was going to get caught up in the possibility of what could happen now. The last 15 minutes are over. What can I do in the next 15 minutes? What can I do in the next 15 months? What can I do in the next 15 years? He's got 15 more years till he graduates from high school. What can I do then? I'm not going to get caught up in a pile of should. And so then I have to start investing in me. And that's like just coming full circle. Like, what are we doing to invest in ourselves? Because we can't fill others up with an empty cup, right? We got to fill our cup up with awesome. We got to super glue awesome to our lives. We got to make listening a superpower. Like, so just listening to your story, a soulful leader it makes super listening a superpower. And I think that is so true, Mel. I think that is so true. Having been around high schoolers forever, it is so true. People think that to be a good listener, you have to give advice, but sometimes being a good listener is just listening. They just need someone to unload stuff on. They just need you to listen. They need to know that their words matter. They need to know that. I've had multiple kids in the high school age in the last 6 months. One said, I've never had anyone believe in you I've never had anyone believe me the way you believe in me. And the thing is, I wasn't ever giving that guy any advice. We would just see each other one-on-one, and I just listened. I wasn't offering any rock star advice. I wasn't reinventing the wheel. I literally was just listening. And he's claiming that I do believe in him, but it's not like I did anything. It's not like some super secret sauce. The secret sauce was that I was just listening. But
I agree with you. There's a passive power to that, and it's really empowering for kids. I learned that as well, being a therapist with middle schoolers. And it wasn't until the very end of my practice that I actually realized that. But all I had to do was listen. Like, a lot of these kids just didn't feel heard at all in any of their realms. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, and Deslin, you've worked with troubled teens, right? I think you also have experiences where just listening really helped kids.
Yeah, I was telling Karen that my teachers, Brad, I know you're a teacher, and I feel that people don't realize, but my teachers, some of them are my coaches, but their ability to listen and to acknowledge you, like, hey, good morning, how are you, is like, dude, for a kid who is going through troubling times, for me on the back end, there was so much going on that people didn't know about. I felt love. Like, the making someone feel worthy, making someone feel respected, cared for, like, a high goes a long way, and I think that's the things that we don't realize, acknowledging our children and whatnot. When I was listening to you guys share from my journey with Kainoa, I moved home because I got divorced back in 2009. And that same year, my grandmother died. And then a couple years after that, my dad died. And then, all these people died. And so the biggest thing for my son was teaching him compassion and being patient and, being supportive of him because, he only had two times spend time with my dad. And my dad died unexpectedly. And what I've learned over the years is that success is different for everybody. For me, because of my grief journey with my sister, success is just getting out of bed. And when I got divorced, the biggest thing for me was I had to learn to take care of me. And so my mental health had to become a priority because I kept shutting down. And like Brad said, it's like, we cannot give to others, whether it's our children, our spouses, our partners, or just people in general in our businesses. If we decide to do a customer service thing, if we're not taking care of our wellness, whether it's our emotional, mental, spiritual, and whatnot. And even for me, I went back into therapy for anxiety. And so I think, making sure that we find harmony within ourselves, because we cannot help our kids if we don't feel like we're balanced within ourselves. So that's what I've learned. But thank you. I'm learning a lot from you guys.
Thank you so much, Brad. That you are just makes me want to interview again. I think,
I love Brad's insight because I think, not that I like to overgeneralize and put us into generals and stuff, but I do really feel like as parents, male and female bring very dynamic things to the table, and we have unique perspectives. And that's, I mean, this is not just because I say so. I mean, there's studies that show that like the parenting of dads encourage more physical risk taking, more confidence, whereas moms are more the cautious type. So thank you, Brad, for being a part of this and sharing your insight, because we don't often have dad views. So I hope you pop on more when you're able to.
I love I love talking about this stuff. So I appreciate you guys letting me steal your time.
Thank you so
Never
much.
a
I know.
steal.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, yeah, when I asked Brad, I said, hey, you want to be a surprise guest? I won't tell Mello and Des. And I was just thinking, we didn't know if you were going to be able to make it. And when you said you would, I know I said just a few minutes. So thank you so much. You've given us way more than half an hour of your time. And I think it's just so enlightening, you know, to hear your perspective. And I think as a coach and as a dad, you know, just the golden nuggets of wisdom that you shared. I mean, I think it's
Thank you.
something I think that all parents would change their mindset on. We need to achieve, because I was there. My daughters always say, wow, you would have, you know, raised us so differently, but that's what we knew back then.
Right. I think we're all in that boat.
And just a reminder for parents, we do the best that we can with what we got, you know?
Right.
Yes.
Well, and I would also remind people that happiness doesn't happen when we're handed something or at the end. Happiness starts now.
Ooh.
Like happiness isn't something that comes when something just pops in, or we get something, or we win something. Or happiness is not a destination. Happiness is right now. And I find that a lot of people work harder to be weak than to be strong. A lot of people get so caught up in the pity city stuff, the victimitis stuff, the negative thinking stuff, just completely stunts their growth, and it's not fun. And so I always say, why would you fight so hard to not have fun? Because parenting is the greatest gift ever. Why would we not fight our butt off to have an incredible experience? Which isn't to say there aren't going to be rough. If you've had teenagers, you know there's no way of not having some rough patches. It's not possible. But why would you fight hard? And you guys know, when you start having teenagers, all you can do is focus on the road, because you can't hold them too tight. One, they need to make some mistakes, and two, they have to learn, and three, if you hold them too tight, they're going to push you away. So some things just need to run its course. And you just do your best to give them the best framework possible. And I've found that for me, the best framework possible has positive in it. Be the best positive leader and role model you can be for them. Tell them you love them every time you see them. And I think those things will help you produce a winner. So.
My God, what a way to end the year, guys. Like, this is a great conversation. Like,
yeah,
definitely great food for thought as we move into 2022 and how, like, you know, we will conduct ourselves as parents, as people. So thank you, Brad. Thank you, ladies. That was an awesome sesh.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year, you guys.
Happy New Year. And I'm sure we'll hope to see Brad more frequently next year. And thanks. So happy New Year to everyone. And we shall welcome 22 with I think there's going to be great things in store.
Optimism, enthusiasm, openness.
Yes.
Gratitude, yes.
Mellowism.
B-radism, parentism, desism. Sprinkle it all in, guys.
Okay,
Aloha, happy New Year, everybody.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.